You're listening to the Dibbly-Dobbly podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. See on that. Let's talk about Cricket USA, the team, the national teams, Nate, men's and the women's and men's teams, and talk about them because many people would not know about the teams and the players and what they've been doing over the last few years. We'll start with the women's team. The women's team started playing T20 nationals in 2019. They've done okay in that time. They've played 22 matches. They've won 10 of them, lost 12 in that time.
Yeah.
They're still yet to play a women's ODI. They haven't had that opportunity yet, but hopefully in the near future. And the under-19 women's USA team played in the Under-19 World Cup in South Africa this year.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. Obviously, they lost all three matches in the group stage, but it was a good opportunity for them to learn and travel and play in a different country and play different teams around the world, which will put them in good stead going forward.
Sure.
Also, Tara Norris has announced us, a 24-year-old, did well in the women's IPL. I think she was the only associate player bought at the auction, and she took the first ever 5-wicket haul. 5 for 29 in one match in 4 overs, which is pretty good. Debuted in 2021 for the US and plays cricket in England because she moved there in, I think, 2006, it said. So she's doing well over there domestically. And then that's the women's team, but you have the men's team as well.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned earlier, Nate, they acquired ODI status in 2019, but the US have been playing one-day cricket for longer than that. But since 2004, they've played 51 ODIs. They've won 22, lost 27, and tied 2. And they recently qualified for the Cricket World Cup qualifiers in Zimbabwe. Didn't quite go to plan. They lost all 4 matches in the group stage, but it will put them in good stead. And obviously, as we mentioned before, the T20 World Cup as hosts will be a good opportunity for them to play well in that home tournament. So Nate, for those who may not know a lot about the women's and men's US teams, can you tell us more a bit about them in terms of the players, the stories, etc., from both the women's and men's?
Sure. The women's team, as with most women's international cricket, ground floor right now. You know, the women's setup. We didn't have obviously, most nations didn't have a U19 team until recently, on the women's side. So we have one now. A few years back, USA hired Julia Price to come and be the coach of the U.S. women's setup and to help with Julie Abbott and Nadia Grunny to help establish some kind of a pathway a national championship for we need something. There's only about 300 women in the USA that play cricket organized, and that's a very small amount. And so a lot of people talk about we got to get cricket into the NCAA, into college, and we're not going to do that unless we multiply the amount of women playing cricket by 10 or by 20 or 30. We're going to need 9,000 women playing cricket in the USA before the under the age of 22 or something, before we can justify a women's NCAA, and we can't get a men's NCAA unless we get a women's NCAA, because you got to do both of them pretty much. There's all kinds of rules about that. I won't get into that too much, but so it's only been a short term where the women's team has actually, the women's setup has gotten a lot of momentum. Now, the current national governing body is so strapped for money and so strange with their motives, or with their priorities, I should say, that that we're always at the mercy of that. And this is the problem with national governing bodies. It's a serious problem. It's not just us that have this problem, it's everybody. And so almost everybody. But yes, so you have all these young players, and USA has played a lot more young women in their women's team, in their senior women's team, than ever before, because of these pathways, because we've been turning over new talent. We've got Geetika Kodali, who is the U19 captain, U19 women's team captain, and the vice captain of the women's team. And she, so she actually moved to North Carolina from California because she wanted to have access to Church Street Park here. She wanted to have access to the local coaches. So her whole family moved her here when she was in high school for cricket. So that speaks to the reputation of this community, but it also speaks to the dedication of somebody like Gitiko, who is a tall, fast bowler. And so yeah, you have young players like her, Sani Michaela, Anika Kolan, Lisa Ramjit, who actually dropped out. She stopped playing cricket because it's hard when you get to the college age. People make a lot of decisions. She joined the Air Force.
Yeah.
So this is an issue we're dealing with, retaining these 300. We have 300 women playing cricket, and we got to retain them. And so this is the ground floor. Hopefully, we can make these opportunities more equitable for women playing cricket. Hopefully, the local leagues is where it's really important. They need to make space for women to play cricket. It's hard for the local leagues it's hard to get them to make space for youth. So it's not always true, but it is one of the challenges. So yes, we have a lot of promising young female cricketers, a lot of women that are promising, and we need to make sure that we keep the momentum that we have, and we retain these players and communicate well with them. The national governing body, the coaching staffs need to communicate well with them. Now, obviously, Julia Price isn't here anymore, but the years that she was here, a couple of years, the 1 year she was here, the improvement that we had, and we implemented a national championship, which was very interesting. Like I said before, one of our biggest challenges, the nation's humongous. And when you have a nation geographically as big as ours, but where only 300 women are playing cricket, they're spread out like crazy. So our national championship it starts with sub-regional, then regional, and then national. And so what they would do is, instead of a team advancing to each phase, like the winning team advancing to each phase, it was every level they would reshuffle the teams. They would repick a team. So when you go from the sub-regional to the regional selectors are choosing the best players from the sub-regional. And then when you go from the regional to the national teams, there's two of them. There's the West and the East or whatever. Those two teams are picking based off who performed at the level before. So that's a good way to do it. We needed to do it that way. It was smart, and it led to us having some success. But yeah, it's the ground floor for women's cricket. I'd like to see us capitalize on it. The men's team, yes, achieved the ODI status in 2019. Really important, good for the budget, but had mixed success in their 3 years of ODI cricket. Playing 12 ODIs a year for 3 years. Well, supposedly that, obviously, COVID shook that up a bit, but they did play 36 one-day internationals. And kind of the knock on the men's team is they don't seem to stand up in the clutch situations. They'll make it to the qualifier, and then they'll get blown away like they did this time. And that's kind of the knock on them and on the men's team right now. And selection is a big concern for everybody in the nation, as some of these MLC contracted players become eligible for USA, having been here for 3 years. Some of these players, and right before Major League Cricket, they were getting overlooked. Corey Anderson was overlooked for selection before he's eligible. He was overlooked for selection for the World Cup qualifier. For whatever reason, nobody knows why. The selectors didn't take him, and then he goes out, and in his first innings in Major League Cricket, he scores like 91 runs. And everybody's like, now everyone's saying, why didn't you take Corey Anderson?
Yeah.
It's and this is why
his track record and playing for New Zealand,
given the fact that he's Corey Anderson, now that we have Major League and Minor League Cricket actually helped to take steps with this too, because we had this history of never picking younger players and developing them. And then Minor League happened, and we had standout performers in Minor League Cricket who were under the age of 21, who, Saimu Kamala, for example, youngest centurion for USA Cricket, and he did it in USA's largest successful chase. So 18 years old when he did it. So, all of a sudden we have these young players playing in the, these 18, 19-year-olds playing in the USA setup because of minor league. Now that we've had major league, we're going to get even more, hopefully even more scrutiny over the selectors. The selectors will have a little bit more respect of the major league performers, we're hoping. So, in the next year, so many of these guys become eligible for the USA national team, and it will be great to see what happens. And hopefully, some of them, hopefully we get the right players in the team. Who cares who they are?
Yeah.
If they're the ones that are going to help us win in the World when we make it to the World Cup, we win a few games in the World Cup at that stage at home. That's fantastic. That's what we need to do. And so who knows what's going to happen now, because the ICC doesn't have a calendar right now for the Cricket World Cup League 2 or anything like that. So we don't know when our next games are going to be. But it's very important that we get the selection right for the next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And let's see what both teams can do. They've got potential. They've got good players who are talented, and just need to fine tune those, fine skills, how to handle pressure and clutch moments, which is a big thing in cricket, because when you're under pressure, you got to handle that.
Yep.
So it's going to be a constant development sort of thing with the teams going forward, which it is with every associate nation.
Yeah.
But if you can win big games in big tournaments, like a T20 World Cup for the men's next year, that would do wonders for the team's confidence and morale, because knowing that we can look at what in the last T20 World Cup the Netherlands did, and Zimbabwe, and all these teams, and Namibia in not the last World Cup in Australia, but the one in the UAE. They qualified for the Super 12 stage. And they did well. So there is potential there that you can look at other teams that can inspire you. So hopefully that's the case with both the women's and men's teams.
And look at Thailand women's team. Find inspiration from them. And the fair break is such a great thing for the women's cricket. It's fair. And we're hoping to get the fair break here in Morrisville in a couple of years, or maybe next year. We're hoping to. Hopefully they'll go that way. Now they might just do it in Grand Prairie in Dallas, but I'll tell you what, if they do it here in Morrisville, they'll get better attendance, guarantee it, because we have local cricketers who will be playing in that fair break, and people will come out and cheer for them. And I would rather watch the fair break at a full Church Street Park than at a half full Prairie View. Grand Prairie. There's another place called Prairie View, so I get the two of them confused. But Grand Prairie,
hopefully we do, and hopefully we see the women play another, like Tara Norris.
IPL,
WBBL in Australia, the Women's Big Bash. So hopefully we'll see many, even the men. What's his name from the US that plays for the Melbourne Renegades?
It was Unmucked Chant.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had an opportunity to play for the Renegades, and
he didn't do great. He didn't do terrible, but I did talk to James, the what is his last name? Their general manager. I interviewed him. I cannot remember his last name, but I interviewed him for an episode, and then I actually got to see him again because he works with the San Francisco Unicorns, obviously. So I got to talk to him again in person this time, and that was great. We had a great talk. What is James' last name? Let me see. Looking it up. James Rosengarten. Yes. Great guy. Terrific guy. But I got to talk with him about the plans that San Francisco has, about what they're planning on, how they view the domestic structure, and if they're planning on doing any type of affiliations with any minor league teams and things like that. And because we need these major league teams to give back a little bit,
That's right. For the game to grow, you need help. You need people helping each other.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah.
We need them to in cricket.
That's right.
Or in society in general, actually.
Very true.
So, if we help out each other, then the game will only prosper from that, would it? But we're not doing that at an international level in cricket, which is frustrating for everyone.
It's very,
I can
very
sense the frustration in your voice. You're absolutely seething.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's out of our control. It's up to the powers that be to make those tough decisions. And they got to realize the problems that the game faces at the moment, because they're not quite seeing that.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah. They have to realize, and they have to care about how to fix it instead of caring about the next conquest, the next small conquest. But that's the state of international capitalism right now. Also, is everything is about the next. If you're not winning right now on this very issue, you're losing. And it's like, sometimes we need to make investments in our future, and sometimes we have to play things slowly. Baseball doesn't work all the time.
That's for sure. Hi everyone, I hope you enjoyed hearing Nate and I discuss the Cricket USA national teams, men's and women's teams. Make sure you check out Emerging Cricket and Big Innings and support Nate and the good work he is doing in promoting cricket in the USA. Links to those are in the description of this episode.